Hello, my name is Veronica and I am a theatrical director based in the New York City area, and today I'm going to be talking about Katie Mitchell's The Director's Craft. I just finished reading this book as part of the completion of my master's degree in directing, and I think it was a really great tool during my last year. This book was written in 2009, was the first time it was published. Katie Mitchell is a director for Royal Shakespeare Company, Royal National Theatre, Royal Court. A lot of work done in the UK and outside of the UK on plays and operas. She wrote this book as a pretty definitive step-by-step from pre-production all the way until closing night of a show. As you can see, I have highlighted throughout my book and made notes of my own. She also references her production of The Seagull by Chekhov as kind of an example of this is how you do it in practice, and then here's an immediate, concrete example of how she used it in practice. So it's pretty easy to follow along. The book isn't terribly long. It's only about a little over 200 pages. However, it is very dense. There is a lot of information in here. She keeps it pretty minimal to her immediate background and experiences. So if you're looking for a biography or, fun story, she doesn't have a ton of those in here because this is a pretty technical book. And it's divided into 3 parts. Each part is a step in the process from pre-production to rehearsals to once the play is open. And the final part is her context and sources for writing this book. Each part is divided up into chapters. Each chapter gives a little summary about what she's going to talk about and then goes into each section. And at the end of it has a checklist of all of the things that she did during this part of the rehearsal process. Things that I recommend about this book. The first is it's up to date. It was written in the last 20 years, and unfortunately a lot of books on directing, are starting to look a little outdated. Published originally in 2009, so there are even sections on using projections, video, digital recording, a lot of things and elements of design that were just not present in any books written 70 years ago. Another thing about this book is that she writes as objectively as someone working in a subjective field can. One of my favorite quotes from her is, "There is a difference between feedback that reflects a difference in taste and feedback that accepts the work on its own terms." Moving on to a couple of, I would say, cons or maybe my critiques of this book. The first is it can be a little dense. I already mentioned that there's not a lot of personal stories or anecdotes in this. It's a pretty strict technical book. So it did read as though I was in school and needed to read this, which I was in school when I read this. It is written about as concisely as she probably could. However, for only about 230 pages, it does feel like a long read because it is technical. This is obviously written by someone from the UK. And she even recognizes in her writing that there is a big difference between, the culture of theater and the arts in the UK versus the United States. I think my favorite difference she mentions is, she says it is critical to allow your actors to have their tea time break, which is not something we typically do here in the US. Not big tea drinkers. But then she does make caveats by saying, even though I'm referring to these as a tea time break, for those living in the US, think of this as your actors do need a certain scheduled break about mid-afternoon. Another difference between UK and US is timelines of how a lot of productions run. She again mentions this in here, is that at the end of each chapter on rehearsal time, she kind of gives a quick little description of how to do this in a shortened period of time. This book is written for a production process that is probably 6 to 12 weeks long. And in a lot of commercial theaters in the US, you're looking at a half to even a quarter of that time. Overall, I would recommend this book. I think it is a great resource for anyone at any point in their career. Like I said, she certainly takes her time going through the pre-production process into rehearsals, and even has notes on what a director should be doing once a show opens and how to deal with having work publicly seen after, no more changes can be made. But I will link this book in the description below. It's available on Amazon, and I've seen it through a lot of bookstores, a lot of theatrical bookstores in the drama section. The last thing I'll say that I found interesting from Katie Mitchell's work is in the section after your show opens. She says, "See your visits as a process by which you can learn more about how to direct." Thanks for watching. I'm going to try to do a few more book reviews, maybe some play reviews on here. But like and subscribe.